Welcome back, Magic ATM Lovers Conclave. I'm so thrilled to be with you today. Think of me as your mentor and guide as we jump right into this explainer. Today, we're taking a really compassionate, honest look at what happens when we've missed the mark in our relationships. We are digging into week 2 of our journey, which is all about returning to God together. Now, if you've ever felt the sting of a relational fracture and just wondered how on earth to bridge that growing gap, you are exactly in the right place. We're going to unpack the actual mechanics of true reconciliation. Here's a quick roadmap for today's session. We'll start with the illusion of quick fixes, move on to repentance as a lifeline, and then break down the 3 stages of true healing. After that, we'll cover some specific actions for singles and marrieds, and finally, we'll wrap up with the declaration for intimacy. So let's get right into it. Starting off with Section 1, the illusion of quick fixes. I want to speak directly to you for a second. Have you ever felt totally stuck trying to fix a rift with someone you care deeply about? I mean, you read all the books, you use your I statements, you do the active listening thing. You were trying with all your might to fix it with just better communication. But the distance is still there. The room still feels cold. Why is that? Well, this brilliantly illustrates exactly why those tools fall short. On the left side, you've got your communication techniques, date nights, conflict resolution strategies, things like that. These are great, for sure, but they are surface-level fixes. Now contrast that with the right side, root issues. We're talking about unconfessed sin, deep-seated pride, selfishness, maybe a quiet bitterness. If you try to slap a surface-level communication technique onto root-level rot, that fracture isn't going anywhere. You literally cannot out-communicate pride. You can't just active listen your way out of selfishness. You have to address the root if you want genuine connection. Which brings us to Section 2, repentance as a lifeline. So for a lot of us, the word repentance carries some seriously heavy baggage. We kind of think of it as this isolating, shameful thing, right? Like someone sitting in a dark corner, feeling terrible, totally separated from everyone else. But today, we're doing a massive paradigm shift. We're tearing down that old view and reframing repentance into something deeply connective. Just look at this ancient wisdom from the prophet Joel. It says, "Yet even now, declares the Lord, return to me with all your heart, with fasting, with weeping, and with mourning, and rend your hearts and not your garments. Return to the Lord your God, for he is gracious and merciful." The really vital thing to catch here is that Joel is calling an entire nation to communal, shared repentance. He isn't asking for private apologies whispered in the dark. He's asking for a shared turning back. To rend your hearts means demanding genuine internal vulnerability from each other, not just putting on an outward show. And that leads us to the core truth of this entire explainer. Repentance isn't just an individual thing. It is a relational lifeline. I really want that phrase to stick with you, relational lifeline. When you're drifting apart from someone, turning back to God together with honesty, humility, and a shared grief over where you missed the mark, that is the absolute fastest path to restoring intimacy. Think of it like throwing a heavy rescue rope across this huge growing divide between you and the person you love. It pulls both of you back to safety together. What's super interesting is seeing this actual visual roadmap straight from our source material. You can see the distinct breakdown of our journey. First, the heart icon representing the distance created by sin, then the arrow for the pivot to return together, and finally the restoration that comes from grace. Seeing it laid out like this reminds us that healing isn't just random luck. It follows a really intentional, grace-filled pattern. All right, Section 3, the 3 stages of true healing. Okay, let's dive into this. So we've seen the 30,000-foot view, but how does this relational restoration actually happen step by step? How do we get from that icy distance back to warmth and trust? Well, here are the 3 stages. Step 1, sin creates distance. Whether it's an individual failing or just a toxic dynamic you've both fallen into, sin fundamentally creates distance from God and from each other. That's the initial rift. Step 2 is to return together. True healing starts when both of you turn fully back to God with absolute honesty. You're no longer pointing fingers across the room, you're standing shoulder to shoulder. And then step 3, grace restores. When you return together in that kind of shared vulnerability, God's merciful nature literally melts the defensiveness right out of the room. It softens the hard edges and paves the way for lasting mutual forgiveness. Moving on to Section 4, actions for singles and marrieds. As your mentor, I want us to just nod along to the theory in this explainer. I want us to actually live it out. Whether you're single or married in the conclave today, there is highly specific homework for you. If you are single, your mission this week is to practice heart-rending repentance. Ask yourself, is there a pattern of sin, maybe a subtle jealousy, a critical spirit, or stubborn pride, that's affecting your friendships? Don't just casually say sorry and move on. This week, go to God and then go to a trusted friend. Actually name the sin out loud and ask for their prayer to turn from it. When you bring a root issue into the light with someone safe, I promise you're going to experience a profound wave of grace. And now for the married couples in our conclave. Is there a lingering strain caused by unaddressed sin in your home? Your assignment is to create a returning together moment this week. So the crucial point is this: schedule a specific time, sit down face to face, hold hands, pray, and then take turns using this exact template. You say, "One way I have sinned against God and against you is blank. I am sorry. Will you forgive me?" Filling in that blank with a specific root issue, not just a communication error, is exactly what clears out the strain and invites grace rushing right back into your marriage. Which brings us beautifully to our fifth and final section, a declaration for intimacy. We've identified the root issues, grabbed the lifeline of repentance, and learned the stages of healing. Now, it's time to step into a new reality by making a spoken commitment to this process. Here is our declaration for the week, derived directly from our source material. We heed the call to return. We rend our hearts before God and each other. We trust in His gracious and merciful nature to forgive, heal, and restore our oneness. By speaking this out loud, with a spouse or a trusted friend, you're making a powerful covenant to prioritize the root over the surface. You're actively choosing to trust that grace is strong enough to heal your fractures. As we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with a question to really chew on. Why is it so much harder to say, "I was wrong," than "you hurt me"? Think about the deep humility required for real repentance. Saying "you hurt me" places the blame outside of us. It keeps us feeling safe. But saying "I was wrong," that requires us to rend our own hearts and expose our flaws to the light. I challenge you to reflect on that resistance this week as you use your new relational lifeline. Thank you so much for joining me today, Magic ATM Lovers Conclave. Keep returning together, and I will see you in the next explainer.